So yeah, it looks like it's going to be RSVP versus Revenge. We just go ahead and throw out the invite here. See if Revenge is ready to go. RSVP is Protoss, by the way. Revenge is a Terran, like we were talking about before. So, yeah. Be a PvT. The opening map is King Sejon Station, so as soon as Revenge reports here, we'll see if they're ready to go. Let's get this music out of here. By the way, anybody wanting to know the song, this is a song from Final Fantasy IX, which is actually the best Final Fantasy, just to let you know. So, if you have any opinions of any other Final Fantasy being better, then I'm sorry that you're incorrect. Although the theory is that the best Final Fantasy is always the one that you played first. So it looks like everyone's ready to go. Of course, I've got you guys in the game, I think. Yeah. So RSVP versus Revenge. It's going to be a PvT on a very unusual map for PvT. You can see a lot of all-ins, a lot of drop play from both sides, actually. So we'll see what RSVP has planned, but if I'm remembering this correctly, really far back in the day, RSVP was somebody that really innovated in this matchup a lot, doing things like DT and Templar and Zealot warp-ins into the Terran base way before that was popular. So this was kind of one of the pioneers of this matchup, if I'm remembering this correctly, if I'm not thinking of somebody else. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm thinking of KCDC, but RSVP was also somebody that did a lot of builds for PvZ as well. If I'm remembering as well, RSVP was really into like Sky Toss and stuff like that in PvZ, making a lot of carrier builds, stuff that people weren't really doing at the time, so definitely an original player either way. So Revenge, Korean Terran. I don't think I've seen his PV or TVP yet, despite casting maybe 8 or 9 games from him. I think I mostly saw TVZ, so we'll see what he's able to do in this matchup. But Revenge is residing from South Korea. He's extremely good. He's on the team Alien Invasion. He used to live in a house with Patience and Golden, who are definitely some noteworthy names from WCS Europe. So Revenge is going to go ahead and open up with the barracks. No gas, so this is not going to be a Reaper opener. This is just going to be maybe a factory opener, maybe just a Marine expand. I'm not sure what this is going to be, but we'll have to see. Let me get my music on here. Music enabled. So, it's going to rally out to the gas here on 15. This is a fairly late gas. I guess it's just going to be like a couple Marines in a command center. I don't know what else this would be. I don't think it's any sort of proxy or anything like that, because you usually see an SCV already on the map by now. But, I mean, more than probably you see the gas already coming up by now. So the probe's going to come in here and see what's going on. And is he going to block this off with a depot? No, he's probably just going to trap the probe in. And there is a Marine on the way. So yeah, I'd say probably just a couple of Marines and an expansion is what we're going to see out of Revenge. Revenge just blocks him out and says, you know what, you don't get to see what's going on here. You don't get to see if this is a Reaper until the Marine comes out. You don't get to see if I'm mining gas. And he's going to lose the SCV. Oh, wow. 5 hit points on the SCV. And that's what I do when stuff gets close like that. I just go blah, blah, and say stuff, and yeah, that's what resulted. So, RSVP almost getting the SCV, and conversely, Revenge almost getting the probe. So, we will see what Revenge plan is here, but this is definitely a pretty unusual build for this matchup. Not opening Reaper, opening up with the Reactor. So yeah, 2 Marines, Reactor on the way. I would imagine the expansion is going to be dropped probably on the high ground, since he doesn't know a lot about RSVP, I would imagine. Is this going to be for an expansion Revenge? Yeah, there we go. So far, kind of shaping up as we expected. In the meantime, the most overly standard build from Protoss coming out, the 1 gateway expand, canceling the Zealot, assuming there was no engineering bay block. Really standard stuff here. The only real difference right now is that there's a Stalker on the way instead of a Mothership Core, which is what you usually see. A factory on the way for Revenge. I think this is going to be a Widow Mine drop. Some cases this could be a Hellion play, but usually you would see the factory built down here if it was for Hellions, since you would get it on the Reactor. So I think this is going to be for a Marine mine pressure timing. And if RSVP doesn't have any sort of solution to this, like a robotics facility, then he's going to be having a little bit of trouble with it, especially if that new balance patch goes through that gives extra splash radius to Widow Mines. With that extra splash radius, you could probably actually kill almost this entire mineral line with one Widow Mine shot if you weren't paying attention. So that's pretty rough. But the Robo is on the way now, so if it is going to be mine drop, which I really expect, then he should be okay to deal with that. Starport on the way, and there's the mine. So yeah, we should be seeing definitely something like that. Yeah, we'll just have to wait to see how this develops. But the expansion finishing up now for SVP, transferring some workers down here, so all of his timings look really nice. To be honest, the transferring is definitely much better than just rallying your Nexus to this. And I don't know why, but for some reason I have stopped transferring, and it's just like a really bad habit that I haven't corrected for a really long time. So if you're wondering which is better between transferring and rallying your new base up to that mineral line, transfer basically every time. So the only time I'd say you shouldn't transfer is if you're really paranoid about an all-in coming, to which you could lose probes and have to retransfer back and waste all that mining time. That's probably the only circumstance, is if you're just not sure. But if you're safe like this, and if you have a fairly good idea of what's going on, then just transfer. So Stalker's kind of just hanging out here, trying to deny what could be a medevac coming in, and there definitely will be a medevac. Just going to pick up these mines and boost to catch up to the Marines. The Marines are probably going to want to force an overcharge here from the Mothership Core, and this is one of the important factors here. Because that Mothership Core was later than expected, because you usually get it right after the Nexus, considering it was Stalker first, Revenge may try and just make him waste the energy on here and redrop. But this is a lot of Stalkers here at RSP. I really like this build, actually. A lot of Stalkers, and he should be fine against this Marine timing, and against the medevac that should be coming in as well, assuming he doesn't get drawn too far out by these Marines. So Revenge making a smart call, making RSVP walk all the way out here while the Mothership, or rather while the medevac starts to boost in from the other side. Not the Mothership. If Motherships had boost, I'm sure Protoss everywhere would rejoice, but medevac coming in here, going to drop off these mines, and RSVP sees everything, so really a perfect reaction here. He can just overcharge and send his observer back and be totally fine. Only loses one probe to it, which is pretty common. The medevac could just go ahead and pick up these mines, and he's going to lose one of them. So RSVP doing really well against that opener from Revenge. He's going into Colossus right now, and managing this pretty much as well as you possibly could so far. Obviously, the 1-gate expand is going to have a probe lead on any sort of expand that Terran does, but the fact that the command center was a little bit later is going to mean that the probe gap is even more widened, considering he didn't lose any to that mine drop. So Colossus Bay on the way, Twilight on the way, Forge on the way. This is just going to be like a Blink Colossus type of play, really defensive. May hit a 2-base timing, but I doubt it, considering how late the Forge is. So we should see a fairly longer macro game right now. Right now, Revenge getting into Stim. Of course, this is one thing you need to be sure of, that you realize if you're playing against Terran as Protoss, is that if they open Factory, their Stim is going to be a lot later than usual, especially with the Starport as well, because they're spending all their available gas on getting the reactor, getting the Starport, getting the Factory. The Tech Lab is, or rather the Stim is just kind of a secondary thought, so that you're not going to be vulnerable to any sort of like medevac timings or Stim timings or anything like that. You can play fairly greedy here, which is why we saw the Colossus, Twilight Council, and Forge all come down at the same time. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight onto what the thought process is from the Protoss here, but right now if you're Revenge, you've got to start thinking about when your third command center is going to be. Obviously he's producing medevacs and whatnot, but he needs to figure out what the tech is and figure out how he's supposed to handle that, because if this doesn't look like a 2-base all-in, especially with the +1 armor. That doesn't really make any sense with the units that he's making. This is probably just going to be for a third. Revenge knows about this because he's going to go ahead and put a mine down there to stop this probe from building it. And if RSVP is careful enough, he can actually just micro away from it, and now he's just going to lose it. So at least RSVP knows at least Revenge knows that there's some inclination of a third base coming down here, so he should be able to get on top of that fairly soon. But Revenge, like I was just going to say, he needs to drop his own third command center, and he did it as soon as he realized that the probe got killed by that mine. So Revenge is really on top of what's going on here. Now boosting out with these medevacs, and considering Stim is done. And the Blink should be able to deal with these okay. This is one of these situations where there's so much drop surface area that's going to be pretty difficult to deal with that throughout an extended game if you don't have Blink or Templar. But the Blink should finish up by the time the drop gets there, so we can see it finishing up right now. This is going to be a multi-prong. So the first prong is going to be going for the third, trying to draw the army out of position. And RSVP, look at the smart amount of units he has here. A couple of force fields and some Colossus. Range will be done in time, but if he loses a Colossus, it's going to be really bad. He needs to not get too distracted by this, and one Colossus is going to fall basically immediately. Second Colossus does rally with the rest of the army, so Revenge has a nice surround on him right now. And if you can just pick him apart, and yeah, he just runs into the natural here, luring him back here with his secondary drop, Revenge is going to be in good shape here. He's already killed quite a bit of probes, and he just goes ahead and boosts out of there. The one Marauder, well, he was going to get out there until the Colossus fried him up, but either way, RSVP is kind of getting picked apart here, and this is one of the dangers with opening Colossus, is that if you ever abandon them, and they can be taken down by bio units, that's about as bad as it gets. So, you'd like to see a blink forward here on top of these medevacs, but Revenge doesn't really care. Yeah, there you go. Revenge doesn't really care so far. He just kind of stuck around long enough and reacted when he could. Vikings on the way now for Revenge, doing exactly what he should. Second starport. This is actually kind of an overreaction right now, I have to say. Second starport with the reactor is way more production in terms of Vikings than he can even afford right now. So he needs to at least get the mining going on this third base before he can start producing that much. But he leaves himself vulnerable, considering he knows there's Blink on the way. He leaves himself vulnerable to a really big Templar transition with not many Colossus. So if he doesn't continually scout and stay on top of the count, then that can be really, really rough. This is not Starbow, this is just regular StarCraft 2. I'm just responding to people in the chat right now. This is just regular StarCraft 2. I don't follow Starbow too much, mainly because I think professional StarCraft 2 is in a really good place right now. Yeah, anyway. So he may be a really good Starbow player, I'm not totally sure. But this is just regular StarCraft 2. And jumping back into the game here, notice how many Vikings are coming out. But fortunately for Revenge, RSVP is still making Colossus. He hasn't started that Templar transition quite yet. And this is one of those things that, even we saw this with Bomber against Pig Baby in the finals of WCS America. He got stuck making a ton of Vikings, and the Protoss just switched, and all of a sudden those Vikings were worthless. And that's something that Revenge needs to be a little bit careful about, and continually monitor the amount of Colossus that are in this army. So you can see one smart thing that RSVP is doing is he's seeking out with these Stalkers a little bit, because sometimes the Vikings and medevacs can get ahead of the army. If you can pick off a couple of Vikings for free and then just blink out of there, that's a good trade. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Vikings already killed, and he didn't lose anything. So this is why you need to seek around with Stalker groups like that. There's a huge drop in the main right now, though. It's dealing a ton of damage, and this Nexus is actually just going to die. There's no response here right now from RSVP, and Revenge is kind of just getting whatever he wants. Walking back away from the army is Revenge, and RSVP is showing signs of really just clear frustration, attacking across the map at this army and continuing trying to re-chase it down. Revenge is going to lose quite a bit of units by the time he gets home, but still the damage has been done. RSVP is reduced down to 2 bases worth of mining. He's still lost a lot of probes. There have been 19 probes killed this game. You can see the attack is still going on here. RSVP is getting a decent position here, but he's lost so much of his filler. His third Colossus out of position, but even still, he's getting a pretty decent trade. I think still, Revenge being annoying with this drop once again, killing even more workers, so there's battles all over the map. RSVP is getting kind of run over with the amount of Marauders that are still here, and the remainder of the Stalkers are going to die. RSVP is in a terrible spot right now, down about 30 supply, and still just can't clean up these drops no matter what he does. So, Revenge kind of taking a decent lead in this game right now. He has really good structure placement, really good checking all over the map. There's only one pylon on the map here for RSVP, and there's not much you can do with that positioning. So, Revenge is in full control of this game right now, and a follow-up push may actually just kill him if RSVP can't muster up enough forces to deal with this right away. So, the one thing you would have liked to have seen a lot faster from RSVP is some sort of transition into Templar, whether that's for Archons or whether that's for Storm. So, either way, it's pretty rough. So, Ghost Academy is now on the way as he is preempting the switch into Templar. He'll be right on top of that. Kind of just covering all his bases right now is Revenge. The one thing you'd really like to see him do is take a 4th base. You might actually even want to see him take it here, a little more forward, at a location where you can't be annoyed by drops or Blink Stalkers or stuff like that. So Revenge is in control here, but he has just a couple more corners he needs to sew up before he has this game in his hands. But at any point, if he gets a good trade with these drops or with these surrounds on the Colossus, considering there's no sentries, that could just straight up end the game as well. So, yeah, it'll be pretty tough to deal with from this point. Stalkers seeking up here once again, seeing what they can get done. Maybe trying to pick off some Vikings that might be mixed into the army, but there's actually not a ton on the map right now. There's a lot of medevacs, but no real Vikings, only 5. There are 2 Colossus on the map, but rsvp just looks like he's having such a hard time getting his composition rounded out, and it's going to remain that way for quite a while. So once again, Revenge, you'd like to see him take a 4th base. There's no reason to stay on this for this long. The only other way I would say it's worth that is if you just pulled SCVs and killed him right now, but even that would be a little bit too much of a risk. There's a big drop coming in here. 3 medevacs while the remainder pushes out. The Stalker's again seeking forward, trying to kill off some Vikings before they come up. Marauders and Marines drop in the main base. You could actually pick off a... Oh no, that's just a War Prism. I was just going to say, you could pick off whatever's coming out of that Robo if he was really attentive. And RCP pulling it back a huge amount of his army right now. Revenge is just going to go for the surround. He's actually just going to go for the 3rd base and say, alright, well, you can't be everywhere at once, and I know this, so if I can just get this 3rd and get out of there, then that'll be plenty. Right now, he's not targeting, though. He was just killing pylons for the time being. He'll still get the base, but still he's lost a decent amount of army. And notice how it closes up the army supply gap, but still, RSVP is having a really hard time dealing with all this. He can kill the Robo-Bay if he wants to as well, and he starts to target that. But RSVP, I think he has one more big push left in him, and he's probably just going to have to go right now. Otherwise, Revenge is just going to get way too far ahead and continually kind of cleave the divide between these 2 guys. Redropping here, he's actually probably going to get this Nexus if he targets it, and not doing anything quite yet. The Vikings coming up here are going to kill the Colossus, and this army should probably just get run over considering it's only Stalkers. Revenge is totally in control of this game right now, getting whatever fight he wants, getting the exact engagements that he wants. He even kills the 3rd base. I don't think there was a cancel on there. I was looking at the minimap at the time, but I don't think that was canceled, so this is pretty bad for RSVP. Only Stalkers left over to try and clean all this up. A full surround of bio on top of these Stalkers, and RSVP just has no more answers left. Look at the stuff streaming across the map from Revenge. Just constant parade pushing, as you can see him even stimming units from the back to get them involved. Now the surround here is going to be pretty decent from RSVP, but even still, the upgrades are better for the Terran, the positioning is better for the Terran, the composition's better, there's no splash. A few Vikings come up here to kill this Colossus, the instant walks down. GG, Revenge takes game 1. So yeah, Revenge really doing well with the multi-prong drops and stuff like that, and that's one of the pains of opening with without Templar on that map, especially for as long as he did, because shutting down drops is such a pain. So RSVP says Catalina. I need to get a pronunciation on that map, because I feel like I'm saying it wrong every time. Say what? Catalina? Andy's so troll. So, just to be clear, we have Grubby and whoever is waiting for him. They're someone is going to match all the donations we made in the tournament today. Whoa, who? His name is Spencer. Are you serious? Yeah, Spencer Wright. Oh, cool. Alright, well, we just got word that somebody messaged Mandy on Facebook saying that they're going to match all the donations that we made for from today's broadcast. So, wow, pretty cool of them. His name's Spencer Hyde, really helping out a lot, so really appreciate that. Thanks a lot for helping out, man. It's going to go a long way. So, Catalina is the map, or Catalina as Mandy likes to say. And we will get this match going here in just a second. Just one more thing. Just make sure that the Grubby match waits. I did. I asked them. Okay. Because after this is going to be Grubby versus Sleet. Will be the next match we're going to have, and that's the other semifinals. The finals will be the winner of this match and the winner of the following match. So that's what's going on. I'm sure these guys are getting really annoyed waiting for me, but such is the way of a caster. So yeah, game 2, going to be on Catalina. I'm going to say it like that every time.
You should. It's kind of like when Artosis says Zealot.
Zealot? Yeah, it's the map version of Zealot.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So yeah, guys, any donations at this point would be very much appreciated. We just got word that somebody will be matching all the donations that we earned during the tournament. So, very cool of them. It's going to definitely help out a lot. Of course, the replay bot does drop in the replays there, as I just saw in chat, but you guys won't see this for a really long time, so... Yeah, Catalina is a type of salad dressing, but this is spelled differently. This is spelled C-A-T-A-L-L-E-N-A, and the double L almost makes me think like it should be a yes sound, like in Spanish. Catalina? But I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. It's definitely not the dressing, though. Revenge says no match history. I always forget that. So yeah, we are jumping into game 2 here. I'll just show you guys the screen that I'm looking at as well, which is my screen. So yeah, Spencer really stepping up his game here, not messing around. I think the way we're going to do it is see all the donations based upon what was donated during the time frame of the tournament, unless it was marked by somebody that's not watching the stream. So I don't want to be like, we got $8,000. No, you always $8,000. No, we're gonna find a reasonable way. But Spencer definitely stepping it up and helping out a lot. So looks like Mandy's on top of it. So we've already solved that problem. All right, cool. So Revenge versus RSVP is our next game, game 2. RSVP is spawning in the bottom right of Catalan. You know, you should also pronounce the LE on the end, which stands for Ladder Edition, and call it Catalan Lee.
Yes.
Catalan Lay.
Lay
Lay Catalan. All right, that's the word now. He's fighting Revenge. Revenge is a red Terran spawning on the left side of Catalan Lee. So yeah, we'll have to see what goes on in this game. But honestly, RSVP handled the opener really well from Revenge last game, but he just didn't handle the drops properly. And on that map, it's almost a necessity to put up cannons and get faster Templar, so you can deal with those drops. RSVP just tried to stay on Blink Colossus for the longest time, which does really well in straight up fights and can handle reasonable drop distances, or at least distances to report to drops. So that's all within the realm, but I think on that map it was just too big, too open. Revenge had too much APM, too much multitasking, and RSVP just the train kind of ran off the rails at that point. So either way, this is going to be a Reaper opener this time. As you can see, the gas does match up with the barracks timing. The way you open Reaper is you would start your barracks on 12 normally, and then you would just skip an SCV for a second and get your gas right away. So that's what we're seeing here. It's definitely going to signal Reaper. I'd be amazed to see anything else, because nothing else really makes sense to skip a worker like that and take gas. But it's really just for scouting to figure out what the Protoss is doing. You can see the resources are lining up decently. You should just see a Reaper get started here any second. And W. There we go. W is the key for me. I don't know what it is on standard. I play on grid. But Gateway is done now. Again, fairly late core here from RSVP. And honestly, I think he should change his build just a tad and get the Mothership Core rather than the Stalker first. I mean, it wound up working out okay, but if you get into one of these things where... thanks, Spectre. It's pronounced Catalan. He just spells it out. Nice. So if you get into one of these things where they just apply constant pressure and your Mothership Core is late, then you're going to have a really hard time holding off continual aggression, because you can't just chain your overcharges together. So either way, harassing the SCV is this probe, and this is definitely what you want to do. You'd like to see him actually wait and go in with the SCV with the probe a little bit later and force Revenge to multitask more than just having the Reaper come down and kill it. So if you're doing it in the Zero games and you scout a little bit later, and it looks like this is actually going to be Stalker before Nexus. So this is an interesting build, and it's actually 2 out of 3 on each gas. This is an opener that I've ran for a really long time. Just kind of, okay, no, the Mothership Core is not something I do as well. This is odd. Exactly supposed to mean. I think this has to be some sort of Stalker and Mothership Core pressure while taking the expand, while you keep the Reaper at bay. Mainly because most of the time Terrans will be building their reactor on here, and it'll take a while. Revenge is supply blocked. This is unfortunate. But the reactor will take a while, and usually you can get there with your Stalker and the Mothership Core to stop a bunker from getting started, if you just move out right then. But either way, the Nexus is coming down, and the Twilight Council. So this could be 4 DTs, and if it is, that's unfortunate because the engineering bay is already done. Or it could be for Blink, and this is not the most amazing Blink map ever. The reason being is that if you want to blink in here and then blink out and go pressure the natural, you have to go all the way around, and their army has just as long of a walk distance. That I don't think Blink is a great play here, at least aggressively. Defensive Blink is fine. Defensive Blink is one of those ways where you can get into things like Templar with the really round corners. Based on these rallies, I think it's going to be DT. There we go. So DT is on the way right now. Revenge does have the engineering bay done, but it was just for a fast +1. I don't know if he's expecting Stargate right now, maybe just having that as a backup plan, but if RSVP checked the build orders and realized that Revenge didn't make a turret last game, maybe this is something he is exploring into to see if he can get a lead here. So we'll have to see. The Robo on the way as well could be a DT drop. which there's no pylons out on the map. I think that's the only thing that makes sense right now. So DT drop is probably going to be what it is, but there's even no turret here at the front. Is he going to make a bunker, or is this going to be for a turret? I guess we'll have to see. So I don't know what this SCV is doing. He's just dancing around trying to fit in with the cool kids, and it is a turret. So I guess he realizes that something feels a little weird here. If this was really quick DTs, which it very well could have been based upon what Revenge knows, or no, he actually saw the Twilight Council. Never mind, I'm like totally derping out, missing everything, all the important information here. So the play was he just canceled his Twilight Council, or rather Templar, or geez, that's a Dark Shrine. That's definitely a Dark Shrine. He canceled that once it got scouted and just started a defensive blink, which is totally fine. Like I was saying before, defensive blink is a way to get into Templar tech without the really rough corners that comes with that, such as dying to stim timings, dying to constant pressure, dying to mine timings. Blink is a really good way to get there, so I think that's what we're probably going to see. You can't be aggressive with blink at this rate because there's just way too much stuff on the Terran by now. Usually the blink would be kind of padded by an earlier attack as well. Hey, Sneaky Probe, are you going to go take a third base somewhere hidden? Even right here would be spectacular. I don't know where he's going, but this has got to be either for a weird pylon or a hidden base. No, it's just going to be for a pylon. Okay, never mind. I was getting excited there. I'm like, you don't usually see people hiding bases in this matchup, but could have been the thing there. So Revenge has really fast upgrades right now. Starting in second engineering bay and an armory would not be a bad play as well. And this is actually just going to be for Blink Colossus once again. No Templar tech like I was expecting. The Forge on the way as well. So this build's looking oddly similar to the previous one, considering such a different opener. But so far, rsvp playing this out like he should have. Should have canceled the Dark Shrine once he realized that was going on. Or rather, once he realized it got scouted. He does have an 11 worker lead, so even though the Dark Templar didn't do any damage, maybe Revenge missed a couple of SCV rounds because he was a little bit stressed based upon what could be coming out. Now he does have an observer here, and the play here is that if Revenge ever moves out for any sort of aggression, he just blinks into the main and makes him choose. Do you come back and deal with this, or what? And Revenge knows this is a possibility, so he has his units back here, kind of just waiting. rsvp shouldn't lose too much to this. He should just blink out right now. And he just blinks one at a time. Definitely don't want to lose anything here, as it's just a little bit of a pressure. He didn't really kill much, but at the same time, this is keeping Revenge in his base for longer than he wanted to be there. So right now, he's just getting Colossus out, trying to turn that corner, getting up into his higher tech without dying to anything too silly. Revenge, again, with a little bit later command center than I would normally like to see. He's going to favor the 2 extra barracks, or excuse me, this is 3 extra barracks before the extra command center. And I don't look like an idiot and say he's already has the 3rd command center done, and I don't think he does, if I'm reading this right. Yeah, no 3rd command center here, so this is extreme aggression here from Revenge. 6 barracks before an expansion is pretty ridiculous. So we're seeing Revenge get on the map now. I think this is based on the fact that 3rds are fairly hard to hold on this map, although even right here is actually pretty easy to hold. I don't know what Revenge's plan is from here because he doesn't have 2-2 on the way. I think he just finished his armory. There's +2 attack. But I feel like rsvp's in a good spot here. rsvp's in a spot where he can stay on this Blink Colossus tech for as long as possible, and if Revenge just keeps attacking into him, and rsvp just controls this properly, then he should be able to eventually just smash an army and go across the map and win, but we'll have to see if that's what he's able to do. Revenge still just pressuring out here, and both these guys should have seen each other. Of course, rsvp can see everything because he has an observer right here, so that's really handy to have. Finally, the 3rd command center is going to be started here for Revenge here any second. rsvp needs to spend his money, though. He has quite a bit of money, and there's no real timing available as far as for a 2-base all-in, so I think both players will just kind of calmly take their 3rd bases and proceed from there. I really disagree with this 3rd spot from rsvp, though, and I'll tell you that in a second. Either way, the attack is coming down here, the Twilight Council is going to die, and that's really irritating. A Colossus is going to get picked off, and that's also really bad, so Revenge getting basically whatever he wants out of this. He does pay for a medevac for it, but I have to say that I guess he didn't kill the Twilight Council, but picking off the Colossus was worth it. And the 3rd base gets canceled. So I was just going to say, I really don't like the 3rd base location that rsvp was choosing here, mainly because drops are a big deal. Like, you can't really blink across this chasm to deal with that, whereas if you took it here, you'd have a little bit better position with this ramp favoring you right here. Even if you've got a surround from the other side, you can see that coming from a long way away via the big little, or the big, I don't even know what this is, peninsula sticking out here. But, yeah, I'd really like to see him take this one because protecting with Blink is a lot easier right here. And this time we're seeing the faster Templar transition. So the other good thing for rsvp is that his upgrades will be ahead here in just a little bit, assuming he stays on top of it. 2-1 will be done here for Revenge, but I think that the Protoss will be on 1-2 at just the same time. So interesting little development in this game here. Revenge never started his third command center until now, unless it got cancelled, which again I apologize if I missed this, because I have to kind of be the play-by-play, the analytics, and the observer all at the same time, so it's easy to miss stuff. But again, rsvp seeking up with these stalkers is something I really like, something that a lot of even Masters level players do miss, is the fact that you can get a lot of good stuff with these stalkers by just poking them out there and seeing what you can get and then just blinking away. There's no penalty for micro, so here comes a huge drop, 3 medevac drop here in the main base. And again, this is why I would like to see his third base being taken right here, because then you can report to both situations much faster with Blink. And this is getting really scary. The Colossus are taking a little bit of damage, the sentries are kind of out of position for the time being, but even still there's enough stalkers and enough stuff here to push this back. But the damage is being done in the main base once again, so if Revenge just targets and kills this Nexus and gets out of there, I'd say he definitely won that exchange. So rsvp trying to blink forward, get whatever he can. Again, another medevac, another Viking. He could actually just crush this army right now, considering it's rallying the wrong way. Revenge still doesn't have a third base, though, so even though he gets this Nexus, that's not the most overly important win right now for Revenge. He definitely needs to start mining on this. He needs to transform that into a planetary, or rather into an orbital. This timing coming across the map is really scary, though. There's only one Colossus, but there's enough filler to kind of do a ton of damage. If the Vikings die, then there's nothing checking this Colossus. And the Colossus is hitting everything in the corner right now, so rsvp might actually just pick up this game from hitting a nice little timing via Revenge kind of dumping a lot of his units in these medevacs that really, I mean, they killed a Nexus, but they're still not doing a lot, considering they're both going to be reduced to 2 bases worth of mining right now. I also kind of disagree with the fact that rsvp goes for this third, because yeah, it's nice to kill a base, but at the same time you just killed his army, and if you got on top of his production, then that basically ends the game. So both these players making some interesting decisions right now. He needs to blink the Stalker back. And yeah, no event right there. Well, now there's an event, he dies. So now all of a sudden this timing from rsvp is over, but he's choosing to play the longer game, wherein he has the third mining, and Revenge is still kind of stuck on these 2 bases with the base that's about to mine out. So this is a weird position in this game, because usually you would see somebody just walk on top of the production and just call it good, which he could have easily just bunked his Stalkers in and just walked the Colossus up this ramp as well to get on top of the production and win that way. But either way, I guess rsvp favoring more of a longer game, favoring the fact that he has the third base, and Revenge probably won't be able to get one for a while, but there's another big counterattack coming out here from Revenge, seeking out the kill right now, and the Colossus only has 13 health, and the Colossus dies. But at the same time, the Storm is almost done. The drops are being cleaned up okay now. So Revenge basically has to do a straight-up attack. I hope he can win with this, but this is just not enough units to do that right now, especially against all these Zealots with even upgrades. Revenge's upgrades are really falling behind right now, I have to say. 2-2, or rather 2-1, excuse me. There's +2 on the Vikings, which is unusual. But a little bit of a drop here to try and kill these forges. Again, this is why you want to take this third instead of the other one, so you can report these drops so much more easily. And sensing that a multi-prong could be coming up here, rsvp splits up his army very wisely. And all Revenge got there was a couple pylons. He didn't really get anything important, so the drop really not doing as much as it could. Observers still just hang out here. There's so many observers out here for rsvp that he's able to see everything coming from a long way away. One observer does die, but still, this army should be able to hold this off pretty well. The Colossus is being targeted by the Vikings, but even still, there's enough gateway units to clean all this up easy peasy. He should actually walk this Colossus away now that it's done its job, and so it doesn't die to the Viking, or at least take any more unnecessary damage. rsvp is kind of all over Revenge right now, as he does have a 30 supply lead right now, and there's still no third from Revenge, so Revenge is getting kind of stuck in a corner. And now that Storm is done, you couldn't even SCV pull if you wanted to win at this point if you're Revenge, so I think rsvp has got this in the bag. He just has to kind of play the rest of this out the way he's supposed to, and he should be fine. Here comes a huge wave of Zealots kind of surrounding all these reinforcements. The medevacs do pick up what they can. One medevac might die, No, it does have the boost and it can't get out of there, but still, this is a really scary timing. I'd actually say that Revenge should be okay for just a little bit. rsvp, once again, is just checking to make sure that there's no base up there, and smartly, this time it's the right decision to check for that and then go home. Revenge just calls GG like we were expecting. rsvp kind of took control of that game and pushed it to a point where Revenge didn't have many options. So even though I didn't initially agree with the third being denied, it ultimately was the right choice, and that's why these players are good. So we're going on to game 3 here between Revenge and rsvp, and Revenge definitely is the favored player, I have to say, here with the Korean pedigree. He's been training in pro houses and whatnot. rsvp, as far as I know, is not on a pro team, and has usually been more of kind of like a community member that's really good at the game. So the next map is going to be Nimbus, which Revenge invites me to right away, which we will go into that game as soon as these players get in there. Where is that water animal?
Frog.
What water animal?
Frog.
A frog?
Turtle?
What?
Oh, talking about a cat.
Oh, yeah.
Cat's a water animal.
Cat's a water animal?
Yeah, they love water.
Okay, I don't know what to say. Somebody asked that in stream chat, that's why I'm asking.
I know. I said, I think he's talking about the cat.
A porpoise? That's a good answer.
Let's actually check out an armadillo.
Yeah, armadillos are known to swim. They just turn upside down and they become like a boat.
Yeah, like they have their own built-in raft.
Yeah, easy peasy. Alright, Revenge is the one that chose this map. This is Nimbus, which we haven't seen quite yet today, but he's spawning in the top right-hand side, and also on the right side is rsvp on the bottom side. I think I have to point out an error in Revenge's gameplay. Revenge favors aggression over taking a third base, and against Protoss, you really need to make that work for you by way of getting really good trades against Colossus specifically. And Revenge is just not getting that. rsvp's blink control is too good, his observers are too good. Revenge needs to favor faster thirds and play out a longer game, because his drops and multitasking are really good, but they only pay for themselves if you have economy to fall back on and get an advantage that way. If you're like dropping and killing a Nexus, but then your own third gets killed because you decided to make it too late, or you just don't have enough units or whatever, then it's like, what's the point at that point? So Revenge definitely needs to, I think, play a little bit more of an economic game rather than more of a aggressive game, considering Blink Colossus is about as defensive as you can get. And that's what we've seen both games. So this game, I'd really like to see Revenge open up normal, maybe hit a normal medevac timing, and then switch into a faster third base. So Probe's coming out on the map here to scout. rsvp always really diligent about that, and frankly, I don't scout that often in this matchup anymore, only because it's really so linear. But this time around, it's going to be a big deal because Revenge is going command center first, and this is a map where you can take a command center in the back of your own base. And rsvp is going to see this, seeing this high number of SCVs. The one alarming thing, though, and this is really, really cute out of Revenge. Okay, I was just going to say, never mind. If Revenge was actually going to pull extra workers here to make it look like he was putting down a second barracks or something for a proxy, that would have been really cool. But I think the timing was a little bit past for that. Maybe it's just been something to make him think and kind of throw him off just a little bit. But the command center coming up, 2 barracks coming up as well. Very normal stuff here. You have to imagine rsvp won't even bother starting the Zealot. He'll just take his Nexus as soon as possible. He could even stop mining gas for a little bit to maybe get that up just a little bit sooner, but even still. Oh, Octopus. Is that what he was talking about? That water animal?
No idea, dude.
I think it was Octopus.
I think it was a cat.
Oh well. Cat or armadillo? Yeah. They look like octopus anyway, so I always mix them up. I'm always like, look at that cat on the bottom of the ocean. Oh no, wait, that's an octopus. It looks thirsty? I don't know how you judge that from a cat. Anyway, back into the game here. There's not a whole lot going on. Nexus being taken like we expected, following up with a Stalker instead of a Mothership Core, which again is an interesting choice. This map reminds me a lot of a really old map that was played in the GSL. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it had these rocks at the front, and it had the Nexus in the back, or rather the expansion plot in the back. It's actually a really close clone to that, based upon how these maps are put together. The interesting thing is the Stargate is coming up, the Stalker is totally slacking, as you can see the SCV is going to see basically everything. You have to hope that he just walks up here and tries to see the Nexus before scouting the Stargate. And this is really fortunate of rsvp to not get this scouted, because that's a big deal right now. Revenge actually missing that. There's no missile turrets or anything that's going to be in production to stop this. He's going to have to just guess and assume that rsvp is doing the same thing as before and it's not a Stargate. And try to get a good position with these Marines, because these three SCVs are dead if those Marines don't report there like right now. The Marines are walking out on the map too. Okay, they turn around now. I was just going to say, if he keeps going, then that's goodbye to at least like 7 or 8 SCVs at that rate. But Stalker coming up here, trying to figure out where the Marines are. You could actually poke in with the Stalker a little bit and get the Marines to chase. And I think that's what he's going to do while the Oracle gets a good position on the second base. Every little bit of this build is crafted out perfectly from rsvp, and this is just textbook the way you want to run this build, especially against Command Center first, because you know they're going to have Marines. You know that a factory is overly greedy. Almost nobody's going to do that. But let's see how many kills this Oracle is going to get, because there's nothing here. There's no way Revenge is going to have any sort of decent response time. So Oracle killing a lot. I think already 5. Yeah, just grab the 5th one right there. There's a couple Marines kind of sitting back here. He's just going to pick off a couple Marines, even one more SCV. And yeah, this is a great opener right now from rsvp to get ahead in this game. So you can see the worker count now favors rsvp by 10. 7 workers killed by that Oracle. Of course, I could have just clicked on the Oracle itself, but you know, I don't follow your rules. But either way, a lot of stuff here coming up for rsvp, notably the robotics facility, I guess that's called. You have to wonder if this is going to be for Phoenix Colossus, because you did produce a second Oracle. Sometimes you'll use this for continued harassment throughout the game. But on bigger maps, and especially on 4-player maps, you have seen in the past people will go for things like Phoenix Colossus. And here is the Forge as well, so it's not going to be any sort of big timing. Of course, that wouldn't have really made sense from before anyway. So the Oracles can come back in here and try to just knock down any SCVs that are building buildings. It's mostly what you're going to get from this stage. So that's what you're going to usually target. And that's something that even I have started to realize over time, is that against Terran, the harassment isn't as focused around harassment of their mineral line or picking off units. It's mostly to kill SCVs that are building buildings, and that's so annoying for a Terran to deal with. Because it's a free SCV kill, all it took you was some APM, and it delays them and makes them have to reassign it. So there's all these extra actions they have to do just because you're targeting SCVs that are building buildings. And it's going to be on things like supply depots as well. That's really annoying. There's a lot of opportunity these Oracles can get, and you don't have to focus the harassment around their SCV line. So we're going to see if he's able to pick something off. Even stuff that's transferring like that, you can get. I think he's being a little bit too aggressive about trying to get SCVs in the mineral line. Just focusing on stuff that's building buildings would be good enough. But Colossus on the way. There's no Phoenix production, so this is just going to be Colossus straight up once again. Maybe supplemental with Blink again. Maybe change it up and go for a faster Templar Archives to get Storm, because I don't think we've seen a single Storm in any of these games. The Oracles need to be careful and not die here. Unfortunately, Revenge was on attack command rather than move command, because if he was on move command, he probably could have killed maybe one or both of those Oracles if he got on top of them. But Revenge figures out, or rather rsvp figures out what's going on in time. The other useful thing these Oracles can be for is for revelation. I almost said revelization, that's not even a word. But it isn't a word? It is now. Oh, okay. Alright. It's being added into Urban Dictionary right now, guys. So you can use it for revelization anytime his army is out on the map, and get information as far as where that army is coming from. So Oracles definitely do have continued use. This is a lot of gateways on one base, though. I guess it's only putting them on 5, but the way these are all lining up, this could just be a 2-base push. We'll have to see. I mean, the difficulty in this map is that the third is actually pretty hard to take. There's huge ramps, there's big surround areas. This is still really far from your natural, so that's even really hard to hold. And you usually don't want to expand toward a Terran, even though that's what he looks like he wants to do. Yeah, he's just keeping that SCV, or rather the probe. So he is expanding towards the Terran, which again, funny map positions are forcing this kind of stuff out. I guess we'll have to see if Revenge takes advantage of this by being super aggressive, but once again, let's notice that he doesn't have a command center, and it's wearing on pretty late. So Revenge, again, focusing on being pretty aggressive rather than sitting back and getting into a longer game here. I'm not sure what's prompting this, but you have to figure that with the way he's played, I think it would be a better decision to just take a third base and stop attacking into defensive Colossus builds. So, revelization on the army, as we are using the new lingo. It's on Urban Dictionary, so it's officially a word now, so we can use it without having to worry about being wrong. So, he knows all about where the army is here, as you guys can see. All this kind of information is so valuable from a Protoss, because if you know exactly where they are, you can place your force fields well in advance, get your army well in position. Knocking down these rocks is rsvp, so that if he has to report the drops and stuff, he can get stuff back to his base quicker. The one big concern, though, is there's no blink. At least I don't think there is. Yeah, the blink is grayed out. So there's no blink. This base could be really susceptible to drops, which is why he's added extra cannons. This is a really far distance to report to drops, and it's still linear, so getting from one place to the other is going to take a long time. He needs to be careful with these oracles. He drops another revelation, so he knows what's going on. And right now, this is kind of just a standoff. Revenge starts at 3rd Command Center. I'm amazed he's not starting it on the low ground, by the way. So he starts his 3rd Command Center inside his main, maybe a little bit worried about harassment while he's out on the map, so I guess in hindsight it's not a bad choice. But even still, it's a... Revenge is playing very, very conservatively in terms of staying out on the map as long as possible, so... I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how this winds up working out for him. This time the Vikings to answer the Colossus are going to be a lot better because there's no blink. It's not even on the way. Faster Templar Archives is what we're favoring, so it's exactly what we were talking about before. Maybe we'll see faster Storm rather than Blink this game, which it's definitely possible, but there is kind of a soft timing here that Revenge has before Storm is done that he can get on top of this army. But still, the fact there's so many Zealots with Charge and 3 Colossus on the map with an okay amount of Stalkers means that I don't think rsvp is going to really take any damage from anything that Revenge is going to pull out here in the near future. He could even target these Vikings since he has Revelation on him. Revenge is being very careless about the way he moves his army around, because basically every single time he's approached in this series, rsvp's just grabbed a free Viking or a free medevac, and this time especially, he has all the information in the world because his army is revealed, so he can just see that walking up and be like, okay, I'll take that. So Oracle's still kind of poking around here. You can see they're still valuable as scouting tools. They can see this secondary army over here, maybe prepping for a drop as he does have units in position. So rsvp is really playing a great game here so far. Really no big fights so far, considering nobody's really had an opening. The fact that there's no Storm on the way is a little weird, though. I don't know if this is going to be one of those mass upgrades with a lot of Archons type of deals, but you would see Storm usually by now. Maybe he was worried about the timing coming out from Revenge of maybe an SCV pull or something where he'd be vulnerable. But Revenge stims from both sides here and doesn't really do anything with either army. He runs one army into the main, trying to pull him apart the best he can here. He's going to get the Robo, so that's a pretty big win, considering there's no Storm on the way. That definitely limits how many Colossus are available. The Oracle's participating in this battle, so Revenge comes in from the side and is going to snipe the 3rd. So Revenge getting a pretty decent trade here, and this is what I mean. If he had a faster 3rd base, he can still do plays like this and still try to pick them apart, and all of a sudden he'd be on 3 fully mining bases instead of 1 barely mining base, and distance mining from the Protoss, which is still fairly even. So still trying to get this Nexus is over here. He might actually get this considering the lack of response so far from rsvp. I have to say that he will. This is going to be really close. It's getting super low. A couple more shots will do it. Yeah, and he takes it down. So rsvp in the meantime is actually just attacking, trying to get up in his face here and see what he can get done. But the splitting here is really good here out of Revenge. He can actually just flank these Colossus right away. If he realizes that, no, he doesn't. His army is just too weak right now, at least too hurt on the left side. So this is turning into a crazy game. There's just fights all over the place, base trades all over the place, Zealots getting into the production line, they're going to get killed. But even still, crushing this army on the left side is a big deal. rsvp is way, way ahead in supply right now. And I have to say that it looks like rsvp is going to move on to the finals of this to face the winner of the Grubby versus Sleet match, which will be immediately following this. So rsvp pushing in here pretty hard. Revenge is taking so much damage, and there's really just no options left here. If you're down 60 supply and you don't have a 3rd base mining, you're pretty much dead against a Protoss that has all of the above. So pulling SCVs is Revenge right now. A couple force fields can limit all this off, but the Sentry dies right away. Even still, it barely matters. The Colossus can micro back. Losing a Colossus here, kind of a little bit unfortunate. Never want to take Marauder fire from that. And even though it looks like Revenge might hold, even if he was able to, which he's not going to, it wouldn't matter because rsvp is just so much far ahead in economy and in technology, and his upgrades are better. So rsvp really taking it to Revenge right now. He's going to take this series 2-1. I think Revenge is just trying to process this and trying to do what he can with what little he has left, but he has enough experience to know that this game is pretty much over. There's not a whole lot that he can do, so we'll just have to wait to see when when he types out and when we will move on to the next match. So should be a pretty interesting match following up here. I don't know what else to say. We're just kind of just waiting for this match to end. This Colossus is a boss. He has 24 kills. You can't ask for much better out of that. But GG is called out. RSVP takes the series 2-1, and he will move into the finals.